You wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, your heart pounding like a drum in the dark. There's no intruder in your home, no nightmare still clinging to your mind, just a single suffocating thought. You don't know who you are. Not really. Oh, you know your name, your job, the roles you play, the dutiful child, the loyal friend, the ambitious professional. You know the opinions you parrot, the beliefs you defend, the identity you've carefully constructed over years of social conditioning. But beneath all that, behind the masks, the accolades, the carefully curated persona, who is actually there? And more terrifying still, what if the thing you think is you is the very thing standing between you and true freedom? This is not a question of self-improvement. This is not about boosting confidence or silencing doubt. This is about something far more unsettling. The possibility that the voice in your head, the one you've always assumed was you, is not your ally, but your jailer. We call this voice the ego. But what if the ego isn't just a psychological concept? What if it's a parasite, an insidious, self-replicating fiction that feeds on your fear, your need for validation, your desperate clinging to an identity? What if the person you think you are is nothing more than a defense mechanism against the unbearable truth that you are, at your core, unknowable? Consider this paradox. The more you try to find yourself, the more lost you become. The harder you cling to an identity, the more it controls you. The ego thrives on definition. I am this, not that. I believe this, not that. I am successful. I am a failure. I am righteous. I am ashamed. But every label is a cage. Every certainty is a shackle. And so the great question emerges. What would happen if you killed your ego? Not in the metaphorical self-help sense, not by reciting affirmations or practicing humility, but truly. What if you annihilated the illusion of separation, the compulsive need to be someone, the addiction to your own self-importance? What would remain? Would you disappear? Or would you, for the first time, finally exist? This is not a theoretical exercise. This is the razor's edge between living a life of quiet desperation and touching something beyond the boundaries of the self. The ego does not die willingly. It fights back with every weapon at its disposal: shame, fear, grandiosity, even the illusion of enlightenment. It will twist spirituality into another identity, turn humility into a performance, and convince you that seeking is the same as finding. But what if the answer isn't in seeking at all? What if the only way out is through? The man who killed his ego did not become a saint. He did not become a legend. He did not even become enlightened. He simply stopped pretending. And in that cessation, in that surrender, he discovered something far more terrifying and far more liberating than he ever could have imagined. This is where the real journey begins. And it starts with a single, devastating realization. You are not who you think you are. You walk through life believing you are the thinker of your thoughts, the author of your actions, the steady, unchanging self behind your experiences. But peel back the layers and something unsettling emerges. There is no permanent you. The ego is not a thing, but a process. A relentless storyteller weaving a narrative of continuity where none exists. It stitches together memories, desires, fears, and social conditioning into a convincing illusion. This is me. But who is the me observing that thought? And who is observing that observer? This is not mere speculation. Neuroscience reveals that the brain constructs the sense of self on the fly, a mosaic of electrical impulses and predictive models. Psychology shows how identity shifts with context. You are one person at work, another with family, another alone in the dark. Philosophy dismantles the notion of an intrinsic I entirely. So why does it feel so real? Because the ego's greatest trick is making you forget it's a trick. The birth of a phantom, Carl Jung, saw the ego as necessary, but ultimately illusory, a small conscious island atop an ocean of unconscious forces. Friedrich Nietzsche called it a useful fiction, a tool for survival that mistakes itself for the master. Eastern traditions like Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta go further. The ego is not just a construct, but the root of suffering itself. But how did this phantom take hold? From childhood, you were handed identities like costumes: the good child, the gifted student, the rebel. Society rewarded you for performing these roles convincingly, and soon you forgot they were performances at all. Your ego crystallized around approval, achievement, and avoidance of pain. It became a shield against the unbearable truth that you are not a fixed entity, but a fleeting pattern in the cosmos. And so the ego's prime directive took hold: protect the story at all costs, even if that story is killing you. The machinery of self-deception. The ego survives through three core mechanisms. Identification. You fuse with thoughts, emotions, and labels. I am angry becomes I am an angry person. Separation. You define yourself by what you're not. I'm not like them, creating artificial divides. Defensiveness. Any threat to your self-image triggers panic, whether through aggression, denial, or spiraling self-doubt. This is why compliments can feel as destabilizing as insults. Both force the ego to confront its own unreality. This is why people cling to misery, to outdated beliefs, to relationships that drain them, because the known suffering is safer than the terrifying freedom of no self. Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the lie we live to avoid the unbearable weight of absolute freedom. Viktor Frankl saw it as the root of existential vacuum, when the ego's pursuits, money, status, pleasure, fail to satisfy because they were never real needs to begin with. The ego's trap, a life lived in proxy. Here is the hidden tragedy. Most people never experience a single moment of uncompromised presence. Their lives are spent chasing the next validation, the next distraction, the next reinforcement of who they think they are. Even their suffering is ego-driven, dramatizing pain to reinforce identity. I am the victim. I am the unappreciated genius. The modern world worships this illusion. Social media turns identity into a marketplace. Consumerism sells you products to express yourself. Even spirituality gets co-opted. The ego disguises itself as the seeker, the guru, the awakened one. But the question remains, if the ego is a fiction, who is the one being fooled? The answer will dismantle everything you think you know.